Good afternoon, and welcome to Titan Talk. Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. Today you got myself, Captain Coop, and I have the wonderful, the ever-bringing, I keep dragging him to these shows last minute, Mr. Captain Roberts.
Today it was truly last minute.
It was. I had a different plan for we were going to have McFarlane on, but he has some stuff he's got to handle, so he's dealing that, and you were second pick. No, I love having you on.
I will always be second pick.
No, that's not true. You're my new, so the way we're going to start doing these, just so everybody has a little bit more, Major McFarlane is going to start doing 2 of these a month, and then I'm going to have him on for the rest of them, unless we have a special guest that we bring in, just to keep Major moving in the direction he needs to move, because he's got a bunch going on in his life.
So when was I going to be told about this?
Now.
Oh, good. All right, cool. I'll clear my schedule.
Yeah, live on the air. Here you go. So thanks for joining, everyone. Beatty, I see you first.
As always.
He likes to say that. So today we're going to be talking about staying vigilant of effective public interaction when it comes to what we do, because so much of what we do is customer service and how we talk and who we talk with. It's extremely important that we remain vigilant, even though we have people coming in and we're greeting them and we're doing these things to remain professional. But we want to make sure that we're paying attention to those around us as well, not just to the people that stop in and say hi or good morning or ask us, what's going on in the store, or whatever the case may be. We want to be able to maintain those short civil conversations, but we also want to be able to maintain our presence.
Friendly customer service.
For them, but also pay attention to what's going on around us in the location that we're at. And that could be anywhere. And that goes for no matter where you're working. You want to be able to maintain those short conversations and know the difference between the brief conversations, common greetings and stuff like that, and what's being drawn into now a 20-minute conversation. You're now distracted and something goes on, and knowing the line and where to draw it and how to maintain those. Those are extremely important in the role that we have because of the customer service factor. We don't want to brush anybody off. We don't want to make them feel as though we're not paying attention to them or that we're disingenuous with what we're talking about and when we're talking to them, but we still need to be able to pay attention and focus on the items around us and make sure that everybody's safe in the location that we're at. And it's super important with that customer service standard that we be able to do that. So we have to be able to do that. And balancing the professionalism and the friendliness is kind of the first where we start this. We have to be professional, but we want to be friendly. You don't want to be overly friendly. You don't want to... We're not there to create friendships, but we want to be professional. Obviously, we want to be friendly when someone comes in and you're greeting them for the first time. Say you're standing at a store and someone walks in, you want to be friendly, you want to be professional, you want to greet them as they walk in, wish them hope they're having a good day. I always generally started those conversations as they walked in. I'd say, hey, good morning, welcome to whatever store I'm at. Here's the store's name. Thanks for shopping here. How's your day going? Just a little quick brief where it's the quick... thank you for coming in. The pleasantries. There we go. The pleasantries of the short conversation.
For me, whenever I think it matters more if you're working in a front and center bustling store. Mm-hmm. Whenever I worked a store, depends on what I was doing. If I was standing in front of the door and I was 7 hours in, I probably wasn't greeting a lot of people. But it was usually just a quick, good morning, have a nice day. Good morning, have a nice day.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the quickness of it. And you don't need to have that in detail, hey, how's the weather been for you? But you'll get those from time to time. Someone will walk in and be like, man, that heat wave. Yeah, that heat's kind of terrible if you're outside all day, Having the ability to have that quick conversation with them and not take your attention away from what you're doing is extremely important, and making sure that you're able to do that.
A quick superficial greeting with a... Weather's a really good example. It was like, it hasn't stopped raining for the past 3 hours. Yeah, have a nice day. Good. Yeah, stay dry.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. Something short, sweet, and to the point. It shows the friendliness. It shows professionalism. It shows that you're engaged. It to not just their patron, but to the client. It shows that when the client looks back at the camera, or if the manager looks over at you, it shows that you're engaging with their clientele, and it shows that you're invested. And when you're invested, the client they love that because you're there for them. You're there for their patrons. You're not just there standing there wishing the day was over, praying for you to end your shift. You show engagement, and that alone will make time fly.
And a lot of people will hear this and say, "Oh, but that's the bare minimum." Yes, it is. And frankly, the bare minimum will get you compliments pretty much anywhere you go.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it being the bare minimum, it's the expectation of it.
Yep.
If you walked into a shopping mall and their security didn't say hi to you, like that guy's a dick. That guy's a jerk. I can't believe he didn't say anything.
Someone's having a bad day.
Yeah, but if you walk past them and they say, "Hey, good morning," or "Hey, how's it going?" You're like, "Oh, going well, man. Thanks for asking. Appreciate it," and you keep going. It brings a level of reality to it, and it brings a level of competency. Hey, they're paying attention. Hey, they actually care. Hey, they're watching out for us. They're paying attention to their job.
It also doubles as a deterrent. If somebody is coming into a store, I think we talked about this last week. Somebody's coming into a store, and you look at them, and say I'm walking into a store, you're security, and I'm looking to steal something, and you look me in the eye and say, "Hey, how's
Good
it?
morning.
Good morning. Have a nice day. Thank you for shopping with us." And I walk past and I go, "Well, now he's seen my face, and he's already singled me out." Because if you're looking to do something, you're probably a little paranoid.
Yeah.
And you get about halfway through and it's like, it's not worth it. I'll try the next door.
Yeah, we've had instances of that. A long time ago, there was an incident, not giving out any locations, but there was a brash of robbery attempts, I guess you would say, and they were going from store to store, basically down the road. And they got to where our officers were. They walked in, nondescript clothing. They looked normal. Our officer greeted them, asked them how their day was going, wished them thanks for shopping with us, and 5 minutes later, they walked out without doing anything. Went on, moved on to the next one. PD showed up and was like, "Hey, we're looking for these guys." And our guard was like, "Yeah, they just walked out and went that way." Went down, they caught him, like a mile down the road, and they didn't do anything to our location because when they walked in, the guard said good morning. The guard was paying attention. He singled that person out and was like, "Hey, it's like I see you. Welcome to our store." He could identify, and so he didn't want to do anything because he knew that identifying mark was there.
I've actually got a pretty good example of something like this happening to me. I had loss prevention at one of our stores, and I was standing in front of the store. I felt horrible. I was exhausted, so I was pacing back and forth. I was saying good morning and saying hi. Didn't have a whole lot of oomph to it or a whole lot of friendliness, but it was still greeting people. And somebody was going up to the self-checkout and scanning things. They would just, move it over the scanner and then put it in a bag. And loss prevention radioed me and said, "Hey, keep an eye out for this person." And I just started looking around for him, and me just looking around. And as soon as I saw him, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the guy with the camo jacket." And he looked at me. I looked at him, put his bag down, left. I was like, "Oh, cool." Loss prevention came down and was like, "Oh, where'd he go?" He's like, he put his bag down and left. "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm writing this down as a deterrent. It's like,
perfect.
all I did was say hi to him when he came in and looked at him.
We've heard, we've had stories from officers working where they'll try to push out. They're getting ready to walk out with a grocery cart, and it's like, "Hey, how's it going? You need any help? You good? Did you get everything all squared away?" Yeah, we're okay." Guard moves from the current position he's in, a couple of feet to the left. The next thing you know, the cart's just by its own. It's like, what's going on? Look back in the camera. They stopped. The guard said something. They just walked away, left the cart right there. And it's that little interaction will change everything because now they're like, "Oh, someone can identify me. They're paying attention." It shows that effort, and that alone changes everything. It turns it can turn a theft into a deterrent very quickly by evidence of that and some of the other ones that we've had in the past. And so little things like that, having that little conversation where you're greeting them and you're saying that hello or that goodbye, or those little items are so important that we brush over them. But we have to be careful because you'll run into people all the time that you'll say good morning to, and they'll want to stop and have a 20-minute conversation. You run into it with, I've never had this myself because I'm not a sports guy. Never really been into it, like everybody here knows. And I don't get drawn into the, the Chiefs are doing good, or, we're having this on our team. And I'm like, cool, fantastic, I'm happy for it, but it doesn't do any, it doesn't draw me into that because it's not my thing.
I'm not very good at cutting a conversation off. I've had somebody at another store start talking about religion. I was like, yeah, I can throw my 2 cents into a conversation about religion. But he just kept going, and I'm sitting there, and he's right here talking to me, and I'm trying to look around, and he's not catching the clue. I am not good at cutting a conversation off. I'll just keep chipping in every once in a while and let the person talk. Maybe that's why my wife thinks I'm a good listener.
That could totally be it. But you probably tone out after a minute or two.
Absolutely.
And it turns into that. Yep.
Yes, dear.
But see, those are the conversations you got to be careful of, because then you've got that guy who won't leave, or that individual who won't leave, and they're just going on and on
Yep.
and on, and you're trying to pay attention, and now you've got this distraction of this person. But you have to remember, sometimes that's an intentional thing. You'll have people that do that intentionally, where they're trying to distract you so their partner can get out with the stuff.
That's a good point.
And so you'll have that interaction where that person just won't pick up the clue about it, and you're like standing there, just like, what is going on? Take that as a
cue.
as a cue, and be like, hey, I think I need to pay a little bit more attention to what's going on around me right now, because this seems like ulterior motive. Now, I'm not saying that's the case every time, but it's something to clue in on and be like, hey, this is kind of odd behavior, because I'm not looking at you, I'm not really interacting with you, I'm giving the signal cues that I'm trying to do something, and you're not picking up on it. Okay, I need to pay a little bit more attention to the people leaving and making sure that they're not looking at me with that person. Because if you've got that person who won't go away, and you've got someone who's still eyeing you around the corner, that to me is like, okay, these two are working together. This one's trying to distract me, that one's trying to steal. That's what it would clue me in on, and I'd be a little bit more attentive to what's going on.
So how would you recommend ending a conversation like that amicably without coming off as a jerk?
So some of that's going to be situational. It's going to really depend on the mood and the tone of everything. The way I've ended it in the past, because I had someone do it. I've had someone do it before with sports, and the only advantage I have in that is sports. It doesn't interest me. I don't watch football games. I don't watch baseball games or any of that stuff. I don't pay attention enough to do it. And so I actually had somebody years and years ago. I was standing in an on-site covering for an officer. And they come in. I give them the brief greeting. Hey, good afternoon. It was an afternoon shift. I think it was like 4:30, 5 o'clock or something like that. And I said, hey, good afternoon. Welcome. We appreciate you coming in today. I hope you have a great day. It was my interaction with it. And he goes, how about them Chiefs today? And I was like, what? And he goes, the Chiefs. He goes, what do you think about the Chiefs? And I go, I guess they're good. I was like, hey, I don't really pay attention to sports, unfortunately, so I don't really have much to clue in on this. And he just started going, oh, well, the defensive back and this and the quarterback. And I was like, fantastic. I really appreciate the information, but I told him straight up. I said, sir, you're wasting your breath on this. I said, I'm never going to watch sports. They don't draw my attention enough. I really appreciate you trying to give me the knowledge, but I just don't want you to waste any more of your time.
Maybe that's a good technique, is just feign clueless. Somebody brings up a conversation and it looks like it's going to drag on. You just start feigning ignorance on the topic, and it's like, yeah, it's never really interested me, and I've never really been one to do a whole lot of research on sports or religion. It's just not something that I spend a lot of time on.
No.
Maybe that'd be a good technique to.
Like I said, it worked for me. He hesitated for a second. There was that like, really? I was like, yeah, I've never really been a sports person. I really like cars more than I like sports, but I really appreciate you giving me the information. Maybe it'll give me something to talk about with one of my friends who is a sports guy, but I just don't know enough about it to really hold a conversation with you. I appreciate it, though. I hope you have a wonderful day. He was like, all right, awesome, I appreciate it. And he just walked on and continued on. And when he came back, as he left and checked out, he walked past me and he looks at me and he goes, check up on the Chiefs. You'll love it. And he walked out. And I was like, sure. Like, it was just like, it's not my,
Did you ever check up on the Chiefs? Wow.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. No. Although I will say, since then I've had our majors try to help me with it, and I've gotten a few things, but it's just one of those things that it's not feigning and a disinterest in it. I have a disinterest. They don't interest me. I don't get the same enjoyment as watching somebody do that stuff that other people would. Now, like the bad part about me too about that though is if you get me racing, rally cars or anything like that, that takes a little bit more of an effort on my end to end that conversation, because that's something I'm interested in.
Fair.
So when it comes to stuff like that, and the advantage is nobody comes up to me and asks me about rally car racing or anything, so I don't have to worry about it. But that's one of those conversations that I've got to watch and be careful of, and make sure that I'm ending before it becomes a problem.
What kind of techniques, keeping out of long interactions and staying focused, what kind of techniques have you used in the past to keep yourself focused on the job?
Techniques I've used. Ooh, that's a good one. Really,
like we briefly talked about it before.
Yeah, I was going to say most of mine is just going to be keeping the I keep to the basics when it comes to the initial conversation. I just wish them a good morning, wish them a good afternoon, thank them for coming in and shopping with us, wish them have a good night when they leave. I don't really, I'll say it. So someone will walk in. So say I'm the officer and you're walking into the store.
Yep.
I'll look at you in the face like that. I'll say, hey, good morning. Welcome to our, the store. Appreciate you coming in today. And then I'll move my gaze to somewhere else. As soon as they've said something like, oh, thanks, I move my gaze. So that way they know that the conversation is done and they can continue on with what they're doing. I don't leave it to where you're looking at somebody like I'm looking for a response or waiting for it. And just, hey, we appreciate you coming in today. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a wonderful day. And then I move on with my gaze and look at something else.
Or go to greet somebody else.
Yeah.
I like it. That's not bad. That's not
It
bad.
keeps it professional. It lets, there's a friendly tone to it, but it's not overbearing and it's not rude. It's not like, hey, thanks. It's not like I'm shoving them off or anything. It's just a, hey, we appreciate you coming in today. Thank you so much. Hope you have a wonderful day. And then I move on to the next one. Hey, thank you for coming in today. We appreciate you coming in. It just short, sweet, move on to the next one. Just keeping it that friendly and professional is where I'm not trying to have them think I'm drawing them into a conversation.
A couple years ago, if I had been posed with these kind of questions, I probably would have said something along the lines of, if I upset the person, oh well, they're just here to shop and leave, and I'm trying to do my job. Just let me do my job. But now that I've become a supervisor and I see what kind of complaints that we get from clients and other people about officers, it is really important to keep those interactions amicable because you don't know who they know. You don't know who they're going to talk to. And the last thing you want to do is cause a scene in the middle of a store just because you didn't realize you were being very rude.
I've had friends of mine show up to stores and they'll see a Titan officer and they'll go over and they'll, for lack of a better way of saying it, test them. They'll walk up and see if they give them a greeting. And if they do, they'll give them the initial greeting and be like, hey, how's it going? And they'll try to draw them into a conversation. And generally when it works, they'll be like, hey, just so you know, I know your boss. And they're like, no, you don't. Yeah, I know Captain Coop. And usually they get the same response. What? Yeah. And so they'll be like, yeah, so you might want to be careful with that stuff because someone who's not as nice as me is going to try and draw you in and do something. They might try and draw you in for someone else to steal and they'll do that. And then generally they'll call me and be like, hey, just so you know. And I'm like, thank you. Thanks. I appreciate you ratting on my officer. That's very nice of you. And it's one of those things. I don't ask them to do that. They don't do it often, but when they do it, it's one of those. And funny enough, it almost never works. Generally, they'll call me and be like, hey, I stopped by, saw your officer today at this location, and they were doing great. I walked in, they greeted me, they wished me to have a great day, and then when I was walking out, they wished me to have a good night. Perfect. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you for telling me that. Nice. Very rarely do I get the call of, hey, I was able to distract your. Very rare.
That's a good representation. In the brief moments of passing, it's a good representation not only for Titan because you're wearing a Titan uniform, but your security for wherever you are at. You are representing two different companies. You absolutely got to keep that in mind. You are always wearing your badge.
Yep. Absolutely. Lieutenant Beatty put something in the chat. He said, I've got a call. I have to go. That's one you can use. Hey, my boss is calling me.
Ooh.
So if you got that like that, somebody doesn't want to leave. Hey, man, my boss is calling me. I apologize. I got to get this real quick, though.
Beatty definitely uses that for site checks.
I guarantee you he does. But, I mean, it's one of those things,
I used to use dispatch calls.
It's a good one. Dispatch calls?
Yeah, I was like, oh, hold on. And okay, sorry, I got to go.
That's a good one. That's a good one to use for the. I never would have thought of that one. But for the longest time, I didn't have an earpiece.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah. So all of mine was open air. Oops.
Wow.
Yeah. That's all right.
Wow. Slacking.
It's fine.
Too loose.
So, that's a really good one, Beatty. Thank you for that. I've got a call or my boss is calling or I've got a dispatch call. For on-site officers, the dispatch call is a little harder. For patrol officers, that'd be much easier.
Yep.
But things to cue in on when you're talking to people or when this stuff's going on, things to look for is the type of conversation. If they stop what they're doing to have a conversation with you, you've got to find a way to end it.
Yep.
And end it amicably, friendly, and professionally. Because what you don't want to stop them in the middle of their day to have a conversation with you. You don't want them to do that because that's a distraction for you. But two, it's stopping them. You want them to continue today so they can do their chores and get home. You don't know what's going on with them. They might, it could be as simple as now that their day is going to be put off. I don't know how to measure that for somebody. I don't know what their day looks like, but I try not to, when I see that personally, I try and find a way to stop the conversation so that way it doesn't continue, because that's where the first sign for me is when they stop what they're doing. They pick up a cart and they stop right next to you. Okay, I got to find a way to get this individual to move, because I want them to continue their day and I need to continue mine.
Or if somebody stopped in front of you with a cart and just blocking an entrance,
Yep.
or if someone's trying to get your attention, one of the cashiers or something is trying to get your attention because they have something going on that they need you for, and you're sitting there and you're talking to someone. Or if someone saw something in the store, like I had some patron come by at a store and say, "Hey, I'm pretty sure there's a guy with a knife in the store." And I was like, "Okay." He's like, "Yeah, it's like this big." And I was like, "That's not a knife." And I was like, "Okay." And if somebody were talking to me, or if somebody was standing right in front of me, I would not have caught them trying to flag me down or anything like that.
That's fair. It's a good one. I've had people, let's see, trying to think of some of the safe for podcast ones, because I've had a ton of interactions where someone will, working patrol, I've had residents come up to me and be like, "Hey, I think there's somebody in the hall, like in the stairwell, that's not supposed to be there."
Yeah.
And I think they've got, I think they're armed. And I'm like, "You think they're armed, or you know they're armed?" Because there's two valid differences there. Mm-hmm. It looked like they had something. Okay, well, I'll go have a conversation. And so I go down there and I'll have a conversation, "Hey, introduce myself. Hey, what's going on? This is a private residence. You don't look like a resident. You're hanging out in a stairwell. There's a bunch of stuff in the bottom of the stairwell that doesn't belong here. I'm going with you, don't live here." And start that conversation off and getting them to, same thing, move, leave the property, and do it quickly, professionally, and remain friendly. Some of the ways I've done that as well is where you have, for our patrol officers, where you'll run into something, where you're trying to get someone to move off property that's not supposed to be there, and they just want to talk and talk and talk. And when you run into some of the people that are homeless and they don't have anybody to talk to, they
have nothing better to do.
They're looking for someone to talk to, and it's like, "Hey, I'd love to sit here and chat with you, but unfortunately, I got to have you leave, and I've got to continue on." Being able to discern that and keep it professional is a huge skill. Something I've done in the past. I had that exact thing. Someone was called us for a dispatch call for a homeless individual hanging out in the front entryway. You could get to the front door, but not the second door. The second door was key card access. The front door was just open. And
Pretty sure, I think I know what property you're talking about. I've had several dispatch calls out there.
And he was just laying in the front. He wasn't asleep, but he was just laying in the front. Had all his stuff up in the back wall, up in the corner of the wall, and he was just laying there. And I walked in. I said, "Hey, man, my name's Josh. I work for Titan Security. Just checking in on you. I know it's a little bit colder. Got you hanging out in the front area here. I can't have you doing that, boss man. I know my client would really appreciate it if I could get you to move on. Is there anything I can help you with? Is there anything you need?" "Oh, well, I don't have a place to stay." "You know what? I got a resource for you, man. Just up the street here. Here's the address. If you can make it there, they've got beds for you. You just got to make it this little location here. It's about a 10-minute walk from where you are now. Is there anything I can help you with?" "No, well, I really was kind of just looking for a cigarette." "You know what, dude? If you come out with me, grab your stuff, come out with me. I got some extra smokes in the car. I'll give you a cigarette if you go on. And if you go to that address, they got beds waiting for you." "Really?" "Absolutely." And he picked up his stuff. He walked out with me. We went to my car. I said, "Do me a favor, stand at the front of my car for me. I don't want you following me to the door." And he stood at the front of the car. I grabbed my pack of cigarettes, back when I smoked, and I took out 2 cigarettes and I handed it to him. I said, "Here you go, boss man." I said, "Here's the cigarettes for you. Remember, it's just up this road here. Take this road up 2 or 3 blocks. You take it right, and it's right there. And here's the physical address, so that way you've got that. And just let them know that Titan sent you, and they'll get you all squared up." And he grabbed the cigarettes, thanked me for the cigarettes, thanked me for location where he could go get some rest, and he went. And I actually checked up on that 2 or 3 days later, because there was an officer I knew out there, and I called him up because we were running that property too. Yep. And I said, "Hey, did this guy ever show up?" And he goes, "Yeah, he showed up. He stayed 2 days, showered, got cleaned up, and moved on." Perfect.
Great.
And it worked. So you got him off the property, gave him something he was looking for, gave him cigarettes, and gave him something to move for. Gave him a reason to leave. And sometimes that's all it takes too, is just a reason to leave.
Yep. Having that, I think, in all of the supervisor information that we give out, I think we have a list of resources like that. Is there any way we could get that kind of direction or address or resource.
That one is seasonal.
Right. The overnight, right.
Yeah.
But to get people who are panhandling or people who are just loitering on property that shouldn't be there.
Believe it or not, Google's your best friend.
Right.
I've Googled so many resources to help somebody out before. Hey, if you come out with me real quick, boss man, come stand by my car real quick. I'll see if I can find you something real quick. Take an extra 5 minutes. Google something real quick and get them something.
That might be a great way to, if you're having trouble with somebody who's frequently on property, getting them to one of those assistance places would be a great way to ease their day. They're in some shelter, and ease your day. You no longer have to deal with them.
Yeah,
not a bad technique. Win-win.
It's worked multiple times. Back when I smoked, the cigarette thing was the quickest one for me. But I used to smoke heavily.
Little bribery.
Yeah, and it'd be like, hey man, because normally they'd be like, hey, can I get some? Can I bum a cigarette? And I'd catch them all the time. Hey, I just need a cigarette. I just want a cigarette, boss man. I'll do you a favor. I'll give you 2 of them if you just keep moving. Sure.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've been asked, like, hey, you got a lighter? Or, hey, you got a cigarette?
Yeah.
It's like, sorry, dude, I don't smoke. Really? It's like, no, nothing touches these lungs.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. I don't smoke anymore. I still carry a lighter.
Yeah.
For that reason.
If I was still out in the field, I probably should.
When I stopped smoking, and I still carried for like 6 months. I still carried a pack of cigarettes. It was only 1 pack, and that was the only use I had for it was encouragement, and that was all it was used for. And they'd be like, "Hey man, can I get a smoke?" Sure, here you go. Here's a cigarette. And they're like, "You got a light?" Absolutely. You know, and at the same time, I've had the reverse of it. I've had clients react negatively to it, like, "Well, you gave him something." Yeah, but I got him to leave. He left with no incident, no screaming, no scene, no nothing. I understand that you don't want me to give him something, but by giving him that, I was able to get him to leave your property.
You do also have to be careful if you're constantly giving things out, you're just going to bring them back to you. They're going to come back day after day.
It's not an everyday thing for me.
Yeah, it's got to be few and far between. Somebody is just refusing to leave property, and you use that little bit of an edge to get them to leave.
It's not the first thing I go to. It's not the first it's not the first tool in my tool bag. It's probably my 6th or 7th. You know, as I'm having that conversation and talking to him, trying to get him to leave property and figure out what's going on. It's not the immediate, hey, this is what I'm going to do to get you out of there. It's I've taken 10 minutes and you're still not doing what I need you to do. You're still not leaving, and you're refusing to go for some reason. Then I use that. But it's not the first thing I go for, because that's exactly right. First time, if that's the first thing you do every time, they're just going to come back tomorrow. Hey, you got no cigarette? I'll leave if you give me another one.
Yep.
So that's that line you gotta walk with that. But like I said, the biggest thing that you're going to have is going to be the verbal. Is just talking to them, figuring out if there's a way you can help them quickly.
Yep.
And getting them to
a
move
good
on.
Quick conversation. You can draw a lot of information and a lot of edge in convincing them to leave property.
So is there anything that you've done as a security officer that has helped you mitigate some of those longer conversations into short, or in assisting in that interaction?
The one that comes to mind immediately is on the avenue. I was responding to a dispatch call, and it was just somebody being belligerent, and they had stepped off of property, but only by like 2 feet.
No.
So they were still being belligerent right there. So our officers had to sit there and wait, because if he just walked right back on property, then they'd have to come all the way back. So I pulled up, and they explained the situation to me, and I said, okay, let me just go talk to him. Everybody just stay at a decent distance. So I just went up, and I was sincere. I was like, hey, man, I'm having a really busy night. I've got like 3 other calls that I really got to go on, and people could be hurt right now. I can't leave here until you just walk down the street. All I need is you to do is 30 feet down the street. And he goes, all right. It's like, I'll do it for you, but not for them. And he pointed to the other officers. Like, I really appreciate it, man. And he just started walking down the street. I was like, nice.
And see, that's the thing. Sometimes you'll get there after other officers have dealt with it. As a supervisor, you roll up and there's a guy that doesn't want to leave or whatever, and you'll talk to him and you'll be like, look, man, I'll do it for you because you've been polite, but that guy's a jerk. And it's like, I get it, but I appreciate you leaving. You're making my life and your life, because that's what I've used. Hey, look, man, I don't want to keep bothering you. I know you don't want me to keep bothering you. Neither of us want to deal with that for the remainder of the remainder of our days. So how about we do this? If you go 40 feet, just down block a little bit for me, I don't have to keep bothering you.
Yep.
And then you won't have to worry about me coming back and bothering you.
I've used that a lot. One of our regular patrol hits is just escorting people off property. Pretty much every time you go there, I walk up. It's like, hey guys, time to go. The client doesn't want people on property while they're closed. If you just go street side, no one's gonna bother you the rest of the night.
Yep.
Just 20 feet that way, go street side, and you're good. And usually people go, they grumble a little bit, and then they move on their merry way.
Yeah.
Not so merry way.
But sometimes it's just that, hey, look, man, you don't want me to keep bothering, right? Yeah. I don't want to have to keep coming out here. If you move 20 feet that way, you won't have to see me again. We won't have to keep having a bad interaction. You can enjoy the rest of your night, and I can go continue on with my night and help other people that might need my help. I might, if you can do that for me, I'll be glad to tell my guy. We'll be glad to be done with this. Man, all right, fine. And then,
man, screw you.
Yeah.
Screw all of you. And he walks over there.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. You have a wonderful night. I always end it with that. I always try.
Yep. I usually it's my go-to is, yep, have a good night.
Mine is always, I always try to say, have a wonderful night. I don't know why, but that's I heard it from one of my patrol officers that trained me, and that's always been my thing.
Fair enough.
But other than that, there are tons of resources out there that you can do. You can look up for not just your learning purposes, but for assisting others. So keep that in mind. Fantastic places like ASIS, if you look them up, they've got tons of resources on situational awareness and paying attention and how to hold minimal conversations and things like that. So keep that stuff in mind, guys, when you're looking that up. Tag in on those because those are fantastic places to go. ASIS has got tons of stuff on there.
And keep watching the podcast.
And keep watching the podcast because we're going to keep doing stuff like that too. But other than that, we're going to hop into the weather real quick and let you guys get to enjoying your weekend. So what we're looking at now is we've got 90 degrees today. It's been a nice warm day. We got 93 on Saturday, partly cloudy, 95 on Sunday. Looks like that's going to be the day that everybody does their cutting their lawns.
Phenomenal.
Monday, 96, mostly sunny. 91 on Tuesday, partly cloudy. 87 on Wednesday, partly cloudy. Got some AM thunderstorms on Thursday at 82. Friday, 81, and we got some showers over the weekend coming up at 83 and 85 on Saturday, Sunday. So looking like it's going to be mid temperatures with some cloud cover, which will be really nice. Get some of that stuff back out there. But still, guys, remember always it's Kansas, Missouri. It will change its mind in an instant. So it might be, say, 87 now, but it might be 94 degrees.
It'll end up being hot.
Yeah, so dress for the weather. Take care of yourselves. And remember, hydration is key. Hydration is the day before, not the day of. So thanks, guys. We appreciate it. We're going to let you get to it. Enjoy your weekends, and we will catch you on the next one. Thank you so much. We wouldn't be able to do this stuff without you. So we appreciate it, and we will see you guys on the next one.
Peace.
Thanks.